Thank you so much. It's a fantastic privilege to be here and speak to all of you on this second International Day of Play. Like it took years to establish that Play Day, as we call the World Day of Play with the UN, and the first day was last year. And I'm really happy that you chose this day to celebrate International Day of Play as it coincides with what Pedal has been doing for many years. Um, I'm also, grateful that the minister actually spoke so highly about early childhood, about play, about the development and so forth, which is not that common in the global landscape right now. So it looks like you have a great opportunity and a great support. So yes, I've been coming here for 14, 15 years. The main reason was that we wanted to establish the foundations of what we think about as play and childhood. And I went to many different academic institutions. And when you come to academic institutions, I was asking, where's the door to play? And I was always shown the door to psychology. Yeah, obviously there's play. But what about the door to education? Is there play too? Or the neuroscience, or the technology, or the leadership? And there was no real door to play. So thank you for opening that door, which happened after obviously a cup of tea with Dr. David Whitebread, who spoke highly about children, about play, about the research and the evidence to be built. And I'm really delighted that it is actually the beacon that we hoped for. It's one of the biggest investments the foundation has been doing for the past 10, 15 years now. So thank you so much to all the efforts the team has been doing for many, many years. So please give applause to the whole pedal team for many, many years here for the past decade. I want to talk a little bit about the history of pedal, but actually mostly about how we think about the future of play and what kind of responsibilities it puts to the community we have, but also pedal as an institution. And I brought this picture to the right as a starting point because it illustrates what it looked like 10 years ago when I visited University of Cambridge Primary School with Dr. David Whitebread. James Biddle is up here, the head teacher at that point. And what illustrates is actually what was before pedal. It was extensive research on children's play and self-regulation. It was the opportunity to support children's language development and stories using, in this case, Lego materials. So a range of different research projects began to mature with the team here to understand how we can grow the scholars and enthusiasm for play. And what I'm going to share is around the opportunity for play to bring towards a future of learning and thriving. It's such a crucial moment now for play in terms of the challenges we have, but also the opportunities it creates for bringing communities together and support children. And if you recognize, maybe you can see there's a guy standing at the right here with his back against the camera. And that's really how we started. It was the fourth generation of the family, Thomas Kirk Christensen, who announced the Play Center back in 2015. And it was actually one of the first main representations that Thomas Kirk Christensen did as a fourth generation owner of the Lego company, that he was really proud of seeing that an institution like University of Cambridge could be both supporting play research, but also being inherently playful, investigative, and curious about children. And that's where we announced the logo, the Lego brick logo you might have seen in the faculty, but also where we were very privileged to having Dr. David Whitebread announce the opening lecture for Pedal. So that was 15 years ago. Pedal has been with me on a journey for these 10, 14 years, not only opening the worlds of play and materials. Pedal has been with us in Bangladesh here with the Play Labs, trying to understand how do you build a community where materials are developed as toys with the local community and families, and studying that research. It's been with us in South Africa to look at interventions around the impact of play on children in underserved communities. And it's been with us a lot around the early childhood, but also into classrooms. So thank you so much. I feel it's been kind of the support and the backbone of all that community for many years. The key critical thing here around Pedal actually started in 2009-10. So David Whitebird was supporting our first big publication around the future of play. So he was part of envisioning what could play become as a support for the 21st century. And already the year after, we brought that into publication with a team here at Pedal on the importance of play. And remember the things in 2012 where we had the opportunity to bring the team to the European Parliament, and David Whitebird was speaking about the importance of investments in play. So that became the future of learning. And the 5 play types that the team developed at that point has been the pinnacle moment for how we now define interventions in terms of physical, emotional, creative development. So all of that groundwork was laid in these early years. And then I was really excited when we then had the opportunity to announce a Lego professor. And I'm sorry that I couldn't find a title that would be the right naming of this, would be the opportunity to invite Professor Paul Ramchandani. Thank you so much for having the courage to come to Cambridge and lead a center for play, because that was really the opportunity that was the best we could have done. That someone as highly regarded and kind and rigorous in the research to lead a center for play. So an opportunity not for Lego, but for the wider field to recognize play. And if you haven't explored the Pedal website, please go see the projects, the research library, the amazing number of projects that appear here. So there's a range of different projects. There's a clear dissemination of messages. There's a network. There's a link to other types of resources. So an incredible resource as a beacon for what the community could leverage further on. So our ambitions in the Lego company is to establish and innovate that relationship between play, development, and learning. So the Lego brand vision for 2032 is really to think about play not only because it's so important for children's early years and well-being, but it's because it sets them up for success later in life. So all of our entities, whether it's the company, it's the Kirkby Family Investments, it's a foundation, or it's education, they're all united to fulfill that vision. And partners like University of Cambridge is essential for that research and that validity and investigation into that field. So we are very grateful to have you as a partner in that journey. And that journey starts, I feel, with how children naturally learn about the world. This is a little bit around how I met me in my childhood. There was little a child who was just out in the field, exploring, immersing themselves, being curious, trying and testing things out. That mindset of trying to figure out what works or what doesn't work by trying things out, imagining what could happen. And that's a mindset that exists not only in the research, but also in our partners and what we need to nurture. And I want you to invite you to be on that journey as a child and what a child might think. Because what children do is, as natural researchers or scientists, they ask these questions. What if? How might we? What could become? That's literally how they are growing up. And one of the research that we are looking at, obviously, is what Pedal has been doing also. It seems to indicate that as we grow older, learners are less flexible. We are less flexible. We are less likely to adopt unfamiliar hypothesis that is consistent, even if we have new evidence, even if the evidence and new insight seems to tell us that we should behave differently, we are still not adapting. Some would call it more like a fixed mindset. And still have this open mind to explore and recognize that we can learn new things. So that's what I'm going to invite you for right now. So here are a few key points of what if we truly embraced that moment of play and that mindset children have, and then think positively around that future could look like, which is actually already taking place. It's not a future that is very far out, because what I'm going to show you is a range of different examples that play is already changing our systems and our sectors right now. And the first section is really around what is it play was really the foundation for learning and development. And as was already mentioned a little bit in the beginning, well, early childhood, what if it was focused on play? We know nutrition, we know love and caring families, we know about the security, but play is literally that pillar alongside all the other aspects of early childhood that is crucial. Last year, we were with UNICEF and UNESCO at the conference in Tashkent in Uzbekistan, where we announced the add today, multiply tomorrow. It's very clear that the dollar you invest, the pound you invest today, multiply with 8 to 11 pounds later in life. So that early investment case is very clear, but it's also clear that there's tons of interventions now that demonstrate how play is crucial to that agenda. So over the past decade, we've also invested in a range of different interventions that describe how play can be integrated in early childhood, completely integrated with the nutrition programs, with the early caregiver programs, and so forth. So early childhood, absolutely the most important starting point, and where Petal has contributed widely with the research and interventions. But what if teacher education also embraced play as a professional practice? So this window here is from the Teacher College in Copenhagen in Denmark. It shouts play out through the city, and it tries to embrace play in to be inspired about the community. So the teacher colleges have play labs. They have multiple different materials. They are being taught by facilitating uncertainty and workshops. They are going to describe what kind of ways can they invent activities as part of their pre-education training. So what if teacher colleges had play labs and part of the profession was to be play facilitators? And I'm very happy to say that we have some great people to endorse that here in the UK. So Princess Kate Middleton was visiting that a few years back. And the first thing she did was to take the slide in the play lab and the teacher colleges and roll down and say, this should be fun. This should be enjoyable to be a teacher, early child practitioner in education. So that's the second part of it. The third one is, what is home actually was that place for breakthrough moments where play was a natural part of the home environment. So we know that research exists. We know the examples that are beginning to occur, not only because as a caregiver, as a parent, there's so much benefit you bring to children by being playful and curious and embrace their curiosity and wonder, but also what it brings back to the parent in terms of understanding their own children, but also the flexibility it brings to the parents about how might I learn, how might I recognize something new. So that agenda of supporting caregivers to find the playful moments is absolutely critical. We're also seeing that why is it that play is not ensuring that all children are supported. So over many years now, we have uh, gone deep into how do we support children of different backgrounds and neurodivergence. So early on, when the ambassador of Denmark in Brazil called me and said, well, actually, there's a lot of different interventions that works for children. What if we created a Braille system to help children not only teach Braille for visually impaired children, but also be more collaborative and creative? And that's why we started the Braille program, where the studs of the Lego bricks could become a language for children to develop Braille, but also several other programs, Play for All, where we had autistic children and now expanding that work. Like play is literally the mechanism that can make everyone thrive and see the opportunities and support them as individuals. So it is a mechanism in which we can make our systems more inclusive. So that's kind of the foundation of where play come from. What is then if you take to the next section? What is actually play could transform how we respond to the most devastating crisis we have right now? So we have them everywhere, and we know they exist. What if it was integrated in all the crisis settings? So when we went to Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh and saw the humanitarian crisis, and also in Ethiopia and other places, it was literally play that opened the door to that hope and optimism in the communities and supported children's learning and development. And that research exists now due to Petal also. So Petal and Dr. David Whitebread was with us in Bangladesh for the play labs and also as we scaled it. And there's great evidence to show how play integrated in these settings brings social emotional benefits, but also broader development and learning benefits. And with interventions like Sesame, that it really are the things that accelerates the support for children. So it should be integrated as part of that crisis settings. But also, what if it help us build resilience in face of conflict? So 2017, I was sitting with the Minister of Education in Ukraine as the next wave of invasion happened. And she was very calm and still a belief in childhood and play. And over the years, the Lego Foundation has supported a range of different initiatives in these types of conflict settings. And one of the examples is, how do you reestablish your confidence in the environment around you when everything breaks down? When children are moving from settings to settings and they don't have any trust in either relationship or the physical environment, they do that through play. They take and build their confidence by building confidence in themselves, like the play thing here, play with anything. So they actually take cardboards, they repurpose them into structures. They begin to articulate what their identity and thinking is around the environment, and gradually they're able to relate to other people again. So that is fundamental to building resilience also in conflict areas. What if play was on prescription? I think that is a little scary idea maybe, but to some degree, I begin to see there's hope for that kind of idea. I think it's a little, do we really need to prescribe play? But when I went to the early days in Mexico, where the prescription started there, where families with children who had brain injury came to the hospitals, pediatricians and clinicians, and said, "What should I do?" And you're met with a face like this and say, "You have to play." That was actually wonders. You had small leaflets of paper with activities. You had a few materials brought with the parents home. And parents played and saw the opportunity and strength and potential in their children, no matter what kind of background they had and challenges they had. And they brought the leaflets, the activities with them back and said, many others could benefit from this because I just saw my children a new way and improved their ways of keeping attention, of relating to others. So play should be on prescription. Imagine you're coming to having a certain challenges and you are asked to say, you have to be serious about playing. That's kind of the prescription. So what if hospitals were places where you come to play, to grow, to learn? Petal and Paul and the team has been absolutely critical to establishing a new hospital in Denmark where play is completely integrated. Not only because you come to the hospital, but because before you are at the hospital, children are introduced to the interventions using play activities by playing through what it means to go into a brain imagery scanner or being able to take a blood pressure and other things. So children are invited into the journey. They come to the hospital. The clinicians meet you in eye height and talk about your experiences and your interests. You come to a room that you can customize and personalize with your own stories. You come to a place for a hospital where you have playgrounds where you can play, because play actually breaks you more healthier, brings more confidence in taking responsibility for your health, and you actually grow and keep learning when you come to a hospital. So we are changing the whole hospital structure, supporting clinicians and professions to be able to support that. And I hear that's beginning to happen all other places around the world. The last section is really around imagining the next step. What if we imagined how we live, learn, and work together? So we are beginning to see a movement now that play actually can integrate with cities as playful learning environments. One of the examples here is that children come, when they walk through the city, they can use the bus stops to tell stories and play with figures. They can use the pedestrians to jump hopscotch through language numbers and number games. They're able to play basketball, learn about fractions. And there's really good research behind this to illustrate that you actually have better language capabilities if you play at the bus stop. If you're able to play sports where you integrate math games. So what if you had the cities as playful landscapes? We do have it. It already exists. There's a playbook for it. There's opportunities to integrate that in our environment. And what if communities could become that center of play and learning? So 10 years ago, so 8, 9 years ago, we announced the Lego house in Denmark, where was a place for open-ended creativity, where we defined that the Lego house as a science center, as a beacon for Lego play, was about developing social, emotional, creative skills. Not only because you can walk on the top of the building and have playgrounds at the top of the building, but because it becomes a community center. That the museums and science centers and libraries become play spaces that invites communities in and open the opportunity for children and families to play and explore and learn. And they become these kinds of spaces that blend the nature and the invitation for communities to spend time together. I believe that communities going forward, science centers and libraries, will probably also be the places where professionals can educate themselves and learn more about new ideas around being playful and support children. And what if play transformed the workplace? So today is the International Day of Play. The whole Lego company is taking the day off, so to speak, but we feel it's very serious. So everyone is now out playing different games, all our 32 different places around the world. There's still a double, booking on the factories. There's still a lot of work there, but basically everyone else are now playing uh, because we find this an opportunity to challenge yourself, try new things, meet new colleagues, try to unlock a few ideas that you haven't heard about before. But we also have a leadership playground. And it means that companies now are having a leadership playground means this is where you're allowed to take risks. It's where you can try these ideas that you're not really sure works, but you get a little bit of time to try things you haven't really sure about would work, but you are encouraged to try something new. And we have a Play Your Part program, which is now a public program also, where you can apply play in everyday work situations. You have a list, a little menu on how you can open your meetings. How do you connect and empathize with the participants in your meetings before you go into the agenda? Understand where they come from and the challenges they have. And then you begin to go in to facilitate the meeting. How do we start the journey with courses? How do we engage in volunteering? So we believe that that's the opportunity to go forward. And obviously technology will be the next thing now. This week, we launched a research also to explore the impact of generative AI on children. And we were very encouraged to see that when we asked children around what AI and responsible innovation could look like, children actually said that the way we should think about technology is to be creative, to build our competence, to share our emotions, to build our identities. So if we invite children in, they will tell us about good use of technology. They will be able to say what the challenges are also, as you do in the other report here. But they're actually very aware and very competent in thinking about some of the challenges and opportunities for technology. So what if we actually invited children in to help shape that mindset? I want to conclude with what it means for learning, because the thing we do in Lego Education is really to see how this can transform learning. So we know that what people are looking for in society right now, we can all feel it, is these types of competencies in work. And I think it's important to relate to that when you go into work and what the workplace look like, you are looking to have resilience, to have creative thinking, to have motivation to learn, to have empathy, to have curiosity. It's the first time that we've done this study with the World Economic Forum. For the past 10 years, that curiosity and empathy is at the top of the list. Think about that education systems would prepare for resilience and curiosity and motivation and lifelong learning. That's what we should aspire to. That's what the education system is expected to do, which is doing very poorly right now. So that's the opportunity for the play agenda. It's also the opportunity where OECD, for the first time a few years ago, said, if you nurture creative thinking, you're also more likely to increase your performance in mathematics, reading, and science. And that's a very important relationship. Also, that agency and support for digital is happening not through the transmission of knowledge, by inviting children in to construct their own knowledge. So what we're doing is using the evidence around how these pedagogies look like. Evidence seems to indicate it's active, inquiry, project-based, problem-based. These are the things that could be integrated in education. And we actually follow now a model where we're trying to open up agency into the lessons, the classroom structure. We still recognize that teachers have ambitions and goals and accountabilities to learning outcomes. So it's adult-led. But if this was a flow of a lesson, it's adult-led, but it becomes guided, becomes student-led, and then you close the loop by presenting your projects. So that would be this future structure. And Pedal opened that door with some of the summaries of guided play in the some years back. So what we are seeing is now a whole suite of tools that works integrated for the core domains of schools, that is standards aligned, it engages every student, it's actually education that connects to real life examples, and is open-ended. but it still increases your understanding of the core domain topics. It's just a simpler way of facilitating it. It comes with support for the facilitator. So go to Lego Education. You want to see some of the new things that are going to be announced here in August. I want to conclude that we have this ambition that together we can engage every student and nurture that lifelong love of learning. And I think I've demonstrated a range of different interventions that can happen. I want to call out 3 responsibilities that I think would be important for Petal as we go forward. The first one is really, will we ensure children's voices shape the systems that shape them? So research institutions like Petal can lead this way, as you're doing right now, on truly promoting children's perspectives into the systems that govern the education, health, and society. Children are also part of the society from the day they're born, and they have perspectives and insights, and that's the main challenge first. This is not only about inclusion, it's probably the biggest democratic challenge of our time is to recognize that children can be invited into that dialogue and have contributions and perspectives to increase the value of what we bring. We can also build research that unites systems rather than divide them. If you see from my examples, I talk about the museums and the hospitals and the schools. I believe Petal can help be the convener of the ecosystem, not just a contributor within one of each such intervention. And research can help us think and act across these boundaries because children live integrated in these systems, and we should avoid creating a environment where you have education versus health investments or formal versus informal and so forth. So Petal, please help bring these systems and you help bring that community together to think holistically about how we collaborate. And finally, the question is whether we are ready to rethink what counts as success in learning and in life. So what Petal has been doing, research very clearly articulate that society needs to reimagine success in more holistic ways. So creativity and well-being and identity, they rarely show up in league tables, and higher education can be that role model for thriving, not just the achieving. Like, what does it mean to be truly motivated and engaged and enjoy learning new things, also in higher education? Then you can pull the rest of the system from the school perspective, but you can also connect to society. So with that in mind, I hope that's responsibilities that will keep grow on the team and the community and Petal as we go forward. And thank you so much for joining the conference today and the play. We have an invitation for the play day. Let's put learning in play mode. We have a range of resources at the Lego company, Lego Education, where we invite practitioners, educators, children to explore the community. There's inspiration materials. There's for how you can transform the city into play spots. There's career aspirations broadly across what could inspire new kind of skills. And there's an opportunity to dream big and unleash new ideas through that movement that started a few weeks ago, but will continue also. Thank you so much for the support you've brought to the faculty, to the friends and partners for many years. And please continue bringing that ambition forward. It's a fantastic starting point for the next decades ahead. Your combination of being both the researchers, the scientists, and the magicians. I think you need both going forward. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you both. Shall we sit down? That was a nice thing to do, wasn't it? So we can take a couple of questions, and just as you start to think about your questions and the mics make their way, I will say thank you both for sharing your vision, and this what if kind of thinking is a really good reminder for all of us who can get very busy in our personal lives or even in wider society when it feels like there's all these pressures and things going on, to have that optimism and that kind of open-mindedness and that compassion for ourselves and for each other is something that we should really, keep at the forefront. And also during the rest of the day today, get out of your comfort zone, speak to someone you haven't spoken to before, be playful, all those kinds of things. So thank you, Bo.
Hi, my name is Paulina. I do research about children's perspectives of hospital stay, and I focus on how they interact with play teams in hospitals. I was in the Mexican hospital when they brought the Prescribing play, and I met with, I was a witness of all the resistance that there was and all the play, what is this? But I also had the chance to visit the hospital in Denmark and see how everybody was like, yeah, play.
Yeah.
So I was wondering, in this mindset that I like calling the pro-play mindset, what do you do, or what would you advise us when we face these people that they're like, oh, play, ugh. What will be your first way to go that we can adopt?
I think that's a very important question, because I think hospitals as education systems have very different agendas. They're set up for a completely different thing from the outset. So that's why we have consistently talked about learning through play. And learning is not seen as educational and academic, but broadly about other types of support and skills that you develop through play. So the main advice that seems to be working is talk about what kind of difference does play make before you talk about play. So here, children recover faster when they are curious, when they understand the interventions, when they role play how you're taking the blood pressure and so forth. So really start with the benefit of how it improves the conditions of the children, how it improves how they enjoy speaking highly about the hospital as a place they want to come back to. As a practitioner or clinician, how do they enjoy the work more through play by truly understanding where children come from? So that's why we say it's play is the most important thing one can do. But in order to convince a system to apply it, talk about the benefits that happens, the differences to your well-being, to your how long time you spend at the hospital, how much you enjoy your profession, and that through that engagement and exploration and play. And there are many examples so I'm glad you visited both. I think you would be a great role model to share more of that, but also the hospital website that has many different activities where you can try that in small things. So really small interventions as part of the everyday life at the hospital, where you can embed that role play or identity building. Yep.
I think we have time for one more question, if that's all right, Bo.
And I'm here, so we can talk afterwards.
All right. Hi, I'm Matt. I'm a doctoral candidate at Texas A&M, and I'm also someone. I have a traumatic brain injury, and I was in a children's hospital for a long time, and so I got to see kind of firsthand, like the power of these like play-based approaches, and making that hospital experience, less terrifying. But I'm just kind of curious because I recognize that part of having that experience was being at a child-specific hospital in an urban center, and I live in a very rural state. And so I'm just wondering, how would you go about, I guess, kind of like proselytizing, spreading this word, right? To maybe areas that are more undersourced? Like, would you start by just like, I don't know, sliding into a neurologist's like email slash DMs with like, here are some research articles, or maybe like talking to social workers? Because I think a lot about our undersourced hospitals in these rural areas where a lot of kids don't have access to, cool things like prescription by play. And a lot of times those rural hospitals are also not the places getting cutting edge kind of programming, because they're just, trying to stay afloat and like get people in and out. So yeah, if you were, I guess, going from a ground up approach, and granted, hospitals are not necessarily my primary research environment. I have like a personal interest, but yeah, so I guess that's kind of my question. Sorry if there was some rambling in there.
No, it's great. I think that's a really, really good question. And I'm glad to say we have a report around it also, or a few reports, because none of that works similar to play and learning. It doesn't work through transmission of knowledge from one part of the world to the other part of the world, or one part of the community to another one. So when we looked at interventions at scale to reduce that kind of inequality, it started with the community's own experiences, the materials they have, the success they had with things that work to create trust in the system, small things that demonstrated that actually things improved. So what we've done mostly is to establish networks between experiences of professionals that have done that in other places, then allow them to come and visit and observe together. But literally, the best interventions come from the community. It may be a little similar in a research sense, might be similar in interventions, but it might be with a few different materials in a different context at a different place. So I think the starting from the community, their experiences, and support the professionals there is absolutely the most effective on the long run. So I think the report is called Reducing Inequality Through Play. Happy to share the link later. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I think we will wrap up the questions there, but please feel free to find Bo at the breaks and have another chat. One of the things I'm hearing is that people would really like to be behind all of this, and we are behind this. How do we do more of it? Well, one way is that we have each other. We're all here in this room, so take the opportunity to meet some new people, build some new connections, strengthen those networks that you have, because it is by doing things together that we can do more.